Hi everyone, we're all live now. We're just waiting for Tim. He's fiddling with a few knobs to no avail. He's had to reboot his PC, so we'll just we'll wait here in the comments. Bring a few up. Evening, Richard. How you doing? Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. Right, Ray. Right, Daz. Oh, Gary, on the official page. What's that? Oh, right, okay. So that's the club statement. So let's just bring that up quickly then while we're waiting. We'll unmute the other two. The other two are here. You might hear Matt and Mitch in a minute. Waiting for bloody Tim, aren't we?
Yes, said before he's not had so many problems with the PA down in Brighton in the conference, but just can't handle it on here, can he?
Let's get the screen up.
I think we'll have to make an official start, John, don't you?
He's rebooting, so
yeah,
we're not here yet, ladies and gentlemen. We're waiting for Tim, so let's have a look at this. Blackpool Football Club is working with the relevant authorities to identify certain individuals who opted to throw pyrotechnics and missiles during Saturday's league fixture against Barnsley. The club will not accept such behaviour from a small minority at matches and adopt zero tolerance policy for these on this matter. These actions harm the club's reputation and run the risk of FA sanctions, which could see the club fined, forced to partially close areas of its stadium and face increasing costs of stewarding and policing of matches. The financial consequences of this could affect spending on the first team squad and infrastructure, as well as potentially impacting the price of tickets for future games. Away allocations may also be restricted. Anybody identified as engaging in such activity will be subject to the appropriate sanctions, including banning orders and criminal prosecution. If anyone has information connected to the incidents, they can contact Lancashire Police on 101. I guess that's a Lancashire variation on 999. Chief Executive Ben Mansford said, at a time when the club is aiming to reconnect and attract new generations of supporters to Bloomfield Road, it is sad that a small number are potentially jeopardising so much good work from so many connected to the club. The passion of our supporters, which has created tremendous atmospheres both home and away, has been lauded for the right reasons this season. However, we will not allow the behaviour of a few to ruin it for the fantastic support of the majority. The health and safety of all those inside football stadiums is paramount. We will be working with the SLO, fan groups and Lancashire Police to prevent further issues like those witnessed from occurring. Gentlemen, let's I'll listen to your thoughts while we're waiting for Tim on this. Matt?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? As a guy who obviously goes to the odd away game, you pretty much get manhandled and searched and all the rest of it, don't you, away from home? But nothing seems to happen at home. And I'm not saying that's, what needs to happen. Just common sense needs to obviously prevail. But it's maybe coming to the point where, it's going to take a lot longer to get into grounds because they're going to have to search everybody outside the ground and stop these people bringing these objects in. And the last thing you want, obviously, is to be, to the detriment of the club, whether it be financial points. Christ, we've missed enough football live over the last 18 months. The last thing we need is another, sort of ban on home fans or something daft. So, yeah, I'm all for the statement, and hopefully it'll just give somebody, whoever it is, because it's only one or two people, obviously, just to kick up the arse really, and hopefully somewhere along the line maybe it's come down to a bit of self-policing.
Mm. Mitch, if you look at Steve Hutchins' comment there, disappointing given Mansfield asked fans not to do this before the Barnsley game. I don't get what you think he's trying to say there.
Well, Mansfield spoke, didn't he, on the official channel to Steve Rowland and sort of said, we've got something along the lines of, we appreciate our fans, but, we've got to make sure that people don't go over the line and behaviour is within what's acceptable or something along those lines, and pretty much said, don't run on the pitch, don't chuck stuff. And I think it's difficult because I think that we've talked on here about the quality of the atmosphere on a number of occasions, and we do have a fantastic atmosphere. It's pretty special, and it's something where part of that atmosphere is that it's a bit edgy. It's a bit, there's a bit of something that's not there in a sort of, a sanitized Premier League environment and all of that. But there is a line.
It's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah,
right.
There's a line, and it's clear that if you take COVID away, it's not that long ago since we had people on the pitch. It's only about 10 games ago in terms of being in the ground, isn't it? That we were all, well, no, we weren't all on the pitch, but a lot of people were on the pitch when I think it was Nuttall scored late on, and I think that was 2 incidents in a row back then. So actually, when you look at it from the Football Authority's point of view, there's actually quite a pattern at Blackpool, isn't there? Which is the problem, and hopefully. There's what I don't like is when people start saying, pointing fingers at particular parts of the ground, or, there's thousands of people in that end of the ground that are absolutely fantastic, that add a hell of a lot to the atmosphere and actually cause no hassle at all. There's a few people who've gone too far, and I'd like to think, as others have said, that it can be self-policed and that we can hold the line where it is without losing what makes it an absolute pleasure to watch games with our fans most of the time.
Mm. So how do we think the way to sort this out is? Because if you just tell people they're going to still do it, aren't they? Do you think self-policing, Matt's an option, as quite a few people have just said in there, self-policing? What does that mean exactly, do you think?
Yeah, well, I mentioned it earlier, and it comes down to obviously certain, how can I put it, more experienced individuals possibly. I can only imagine it's not, the over 40s that are probably doing this. I don't know, but you would imagine that it's the likes of me, you, Matt, Tim, whoever else is in the North Stand, that if we see it, we're going to have to step up and just, give them a metaphoric sort of clip around the ear or whatever, with hopefully 1 or 2 others backing us up. But that's the way it's going to have to be, because you don't. It's always the case in life, isn't it, that the few spoil it for the many, and that's the problem. And I'm sure it'll get nipped in the bud, because we're good like that. We've done it in the past, and it will get sorted out. But it's just getting a little bit sort of tedious now, isn't it? It's every game there's a bottle on the pitch, and obviously the flare situation as well doesn't help. But yeah, it's getting to the point now where people have just got to step up and like a few have suggested, sort of self-police, really.
Okay, right. Let's leave that there and let's get on with the show then. So we'll just run the intro, everybody, and hopefully Tim joins us in that interim period. See you in a minute. It's Monday, the 27th of September, 2021. In today's show, we give our thoughts on our third win in 4 as Liverpool overcome Barnsley 1-0 at Bloomfield Road on Saturday, just gone. We finally take our place over the Nobbers in the Championship League table. And this show will also be quickly looking ahead to tomorrow night's fixture away at Hull City. I'm John Espinal, this is the Seasiders podcast, match reaction show, Blackpool 1, Barnsley 0, and a little Hull preview.
Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
And right on cue, the man has just appeared. And
I hope you can hear me.
Hey!
Hey.
Oh,
Jeez.
that's perfect timing. Perfect timing.
By the skin of my teeth.
I'll get rid of the waiting for Tim banner. Away it goes. Welcome to
I've
Seasiders
never gone through a
podcast.
reboot like that before on a Mac. Jesus. It went on forever.
Better late than never, I think that's saying, Tim, isn't it?
Yeah. All things come to those who wait.
And the Seasiders podcast fans, listeners, etc. Good things come to those who wait. You've all been waiting for Matt. But he's here. He's finally crawled off his deathbed. One more of the infected, the afflicted. I think there's only a few of us left standing. Hope you've got your bell with you, Matt, this evening.
Yes, that's right. I got the cross on the door and everything. Yeah, bring out your almost dead. It seems a long time. Actually, I think I was last scheduled to do the post match for Bournemouth because I went down there as well, and then obviously that ended up in pretty much disaster as well, didn't it? With me, car. Well, not my car, but the car packing in an hour outside of Bournemouth.
Yes.
And then it just went downhill then with COVID as well. So it's been fantastic 3 or 4 weeks. Fantastic, yeah.
You've not run over a black
good to be
cat,
back.
have you?
No, it feels like that. It must be said, yeah.
Tim, welcome. Obviously, we just said on the intro there, something's just popped in my head. Welcome to Mark, who accosted us. Spoke to us in the pub at the Bloomfield before the match. Had a quick chat with him, didn't he? A long-time viewer of the show. Just paying his respects.
Yeah, it was good.
wasn't he?
And it's good to get that feedback. I think, to be fair, we all had quite a bit on Saturday. I think Nick mentioned that he had a couple of people approach him. I had another 2 on top of Mark. And so keep it coming because it's good to get that. At least we're not speaking to the ether, are we? We are actually. There's people listening apparently.
Well, there's over 1,000 on YouTube. Over 1,000. We've hit that milestone, haven't we? So, round of applause for us. Come on. Wow. Excellent milestone, mate. Yep. So welcome, Mark, if you're watching, and welcome, Mitch. Good to have you back. Drafted in as a last-minute sub because Nick's out looking for petrol. How does it feel just to be that? It's not good to have that super sub tag, is it? You don't want to be like David Fairclough.
I did say I was the Ethan Robson of the podcast when you first asked me. So
I've had a thought actually, Mitch. It may be the one and only time you thank the Daily Mail for something. Because I get the impression you're slightly left of centre, but the Daily Mail are responsible for this fuel shortage, and you've benefited.
I have, yes. It could be my big break, this, couldn't it? My big break. I've ruined the classic lineup.
Yeah, Mitch, have a look at that. Sean reaching 1,000 subs after Kai leaves the club. Coincidence? I think not. What do you think of that?
I think just you wait, McGinley. Wait till we get that hipster podcast on.
Oh, God, we need to record that, don't we?
One day.
Right, let's get going then. Blackpool versus Barnsley. Seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? Was it only 2 days ago? But here was the lineup. I'd be bookmarks. Anything dodgy in there. Right. Blackpool lined up as follows. And it was a bit of a curveball. Maxwell, Sterling, Keogh, Ekpateta, Garbett, Winsell, Dougal, Bowler, Anderson, Lavery, and Mitch. Unbelievably, John-Jules retained his place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
not Gary Medine, not Big
absolutely.
Gaz.
Not Big Gaz or not Jerry. I mean, the strangest thing in the world is an unchanged Critch team, isn't it? I make this, and I'm not 100% sure on it, but I make it Charlton away when we won 3-0, and then we drew against Crewe in the next home game. It was the last time he did this. So it's stranger. I think I put something like it's almost as strange as if he'd picked Sarkic in picking the same team, because he just never does it. So I think I was kind of just flabbergasted by that. And yeah, John-Jules not playing, and I thought, I mean, we talked about it at length on John-Jules playing, should I say? We talked about it at length on the last pod. I think I was firmly of the view that Yates or Medine should start up front with Lavery. But apart from that, couldn't really complain.
Tim, there was this school of thought, wasn't there, that Lavery and Yates can't play together. You were bang against that school of thought, and proven right.
Although I did say, when we picked our team, I thought it was the team we picked on Thursday night, was it? I generally thought that would be the team we'd go for, but I think we also said if it doesn't happen, it'll be down the right and up the top where there's the curveball. So I think we had the curveball there. We also obviously had Jordan was seemingly injured, wasn't he? So that sort of meant that Sterling kept his position as well, and so I don't think we knew that he was likely to be injured. But yeah, no, I was quite surprised, really. I don't know. It's we can't second guess, can we? What's going to happen? I mean, the day we get a team right is I think we'll have to go out and get on the old ruin and celebrate it. I think because it's virtually it's like trying to pick the lottery numbers, isn't it?
Dennis makes a good point there. Squad rotation. Yates was rested for tomorrow night. Mitch, do you think that was in the back of Lord Critchley's mind when Matt, when he saw that? And Matt, how was it to actually see a game after a long layoff? Was it any of these new players that you've not seen? I guess Sterling being one.
Yeah, I didn't go to. Obviously, I wasn't fit enough to go to Borough the previous weekend, but obviously managed to watch the match back. Yeah, I wasn't surprised, particularly that it was unchanged in so many respects that you just, like somebody mentioned earlier, you just can't second guess what he's going to do. And yeah, the fact is we are playing tomorrow night, so it could well be the case that Jerry Yates and Medine could start, or Jerry Yates on his own with another one in the middle, in midfield perhaps. He's got options, hasn't he? Which is what it's all about. And yeah, as Tim says, the days of trying to outguess what the starting 11 are well behind us, aren't they? We haven't managed it in a year and a half with him, so I don't think we'll be managing it in the next 24 hours for Hull tomorrow.
Bit worrying. There was no sign of Kevin Stewart again. Tim, he just seems to get injury after injury, doesn't he? It's
well, Steve Hutchinson's suggesting he as well as Jordan Gabriel ran to isolate, right, which does beg the question. I don't know whether they have different rules for the league, but it does beg the question of whether they're vaxxed or not. So, because if you haven't got it yourself, you shouldn't have to isolate, should you? But maybe in the EFL you do. I don't know. But that would make a little bit more sense with Stewart, wouldn't it? Because he appears on the subs bench and then disappears again. So it was, there wasn't much news about an injury, was there? So, but yeah, apparently Jordan's available tomorrow night. So
yeah, it's just getting a bit annoying, isn't it, with Stewart? We all know his qualities and what he can add to the team, but it's just so inconsistent. His perform well. I think you've got to
reconcile yourself to the fact he's going to play 20 games, and I think if you reconcile yourself to that stat, then you won't get too disappointed because you're not going to get 40 out of him.
Yeah,
I think it's probably not as annoying for us as it is for him, because I think he looks to me like a player that could have had a genuine career, and a player whose career has never really quite got going. Because of these stop-start injuries, and I feel sorry for him. I do.
Stewart's back tomorrow, hopefully, and so is Gabriel. Stewart's had a foot injury. Come on, Steve. Fingers crossed, Steve, for tomorrow. Right, back to Barnsley game. So 7 key points that we're going to be talking about the game. Firstly, Tim, is the great turnout from Barnsley. They filled their allocation in the south end of the east, and they were actually spilled over to sell almost another 1,000 in the north. So it was a great turnout, and B, I think it added something to the stadium to not having one block that's empty. And I kind of liked it. It made it feel like more like a proper football game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it was our biggest attendance of the season so far, wasn't it? And I 100% agree with it. The only thing that probably slightly disappointed me was that I thought they were remarkably quiet. Now, you know, we've you know, people talk about the acoustics in the east, but I have to say, you know, I've been there. You know, we've had Stoke and other teams here, haven't we? And they've absolutely made a racket in the east. So I'm not sure whether it's that or what, but they did seem, you know, for the fact there was a good 3,000 of them there, I'd have expected a little bit more noise out of them. But yeah, it's you know, it was another fantastic atmosphere. You know, plenty. I think we might come on to talk about some other points that were going on in the north, but it did create a superb wall of noise, and it gets more and more impressive as the season goes on, because it never stops, and whether it's home or away, and it's fantastic to be a part of, really. But yeah, it was good. It was good. You know, I think they're going to probably always leave a block between the north and the east empty, I suspect. I think the only other option they've got is to have fans over that tunnel. I thought that's where they were going to put them, actually, to be honest, on Saturday. So I was quite pleasantly surprised to see them in the northeast section.
Also, just put in my notes there for this, it begs the question: will and should we give the Nobbers the full stand of the East? Mitch, come to you first on that. What's your opinion? I personally think they should give them the whole thing.
Well, I think there's two questions, isn't there? There's the giving the whole thing from the case of atmosphere, but there's also the question of the numbers and the fun before and after the game, and some of the issues that have been with a lot smaller away followings. And the questions about, I've seen quite a lot. I mean, I must admit, not yesterday. When was it? Saturday. I didn't have any problem after the ground. I got away after the game. I got away quicker than I normally do. I was back in Lancaster before 6, which I never normally am, and it was very straightforward. But a lot of people sort of said it was chaos at certain parts, and maybe it kicked off in town or something, and people were complaining about Bloomfield Road being rammed and such. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the atmosphere. I'm all for it, because I think, you know, give them 4,000 or whatever it is, and we'll outsing them. You know, I think the more noise they make, the more noise we'll make, and it'll make for a better atmosphere. And I like, you know, I like those. I can't remember if it was you or Tim said, I like that feeling of the ground being genuinely full. It'd be nice if we had more home fans to fill it, and less away fans, but we don't. So we might as well make use of the seats we've got for the people that want to come. And also, we'll get a bigger allocation at Deepdale if we give them that. So, you know,
Mitch touched on the edge that it'll bring to see that stand full. I kind of want that at that game, and I think the police just need to organise themselves better, and maybe the club needs to, you know, try and nip a bud on any trouble, keep them in for 10-15 minutes after the end of the game. I'm sure it can be done, but what's your views on the Nobber allocation?
Yeah, I too would like, you know, as many as possible, but it does unfortunately probably come down to, you know, powers probably beyond almost the club's control. I suspect the police will have a massive say in things, because obviously they've got other issues to be concerned with, as Mitch has touched on, outside the ground as well as inside. The club itself have got, you know, not an infinite amount of money to spend on policing and everything else it involves. And I believe I think you have to apply for like an injunction order to keep fans in the ground afterwards, and these sort of things. Yeah, so
I was going to say that. Yeah,
it's all costs, and it's not necessarily stuff that you would, as a football club, probably budget in at the start of the season. So whether 2,000 or 1,500 extra fans can justify that, I don't know. But it will be interesting because obviously we've got Blackburn next weekend as well, or a week after next. Next weekend. Sorry, this weekend come thick and fast, don't they? And I don't think they've got a full allocation. I don't know whether they've asked for a full allocation, but as it stands at the moment, I think they've just got one half of the East. And that might be similar reasons for Preston. So I think maybe Barnsley have just been, I don't know whether they've been lucky or whether they've just been sort of considered a bit of a softer touch, if you will, because they're not a direct rival like Blackburn and Preston are. But, going back to the original point, I'd love to have 4,000 Preston fans in there because, we'll get 4,000 odd at Deepdale, presumably. And I wouldn't want us to be, scrapping over tickets and all the rest of it. I'd like to obviously go to Deepdale in March.
Tim, just tell us very quickly about this injunction that people need to apply for and your thoughts on the allocation that we should be giving them. And as Matt's just mentioned there, maybe they may go tit for tat and say, right, well, you've only given us 2,600. You can only have half of the that stand behind the goal, Shankly stand, which is normally 5,000. It'd be a big shame. So I think if the club can take measures to ensure they get a decent allocation, I think it's the best course of action.
I mean, from what I can gather, Preston give that stand now to the away team full stop. And I doubt with their financial position that they'll be wanting to restrict our attendance when the stand can hold 6,000. I just can't see that. But there is that risk, isn't there? There's a risk that if we artificially keep it low, that they will do a tit for tat. And so whilst I don't think it'll happen, I would like us to see us give them more. The issue over I can only think it's almost like a false imprisonment argument that you can't keep somebody where they don't want to be, and the police guidance is we're not going to do it, even though they've done it for the last 30, 40 years I've watched football matches. And you'll have to go to the courts to get an injunction if we're going to enforce it. I suspect that's what it relates to, but it's farcical for me because it's creating chaos. Because I was one of those ones who walked out of the north. I deliberately walked round to A block, thinking I could just go through that gate. Couldn't go through. You can see all their coaches on Central Drive, which is why they're doing it. But then you walk around the other side, and everybody's spilling onto Bloomfield Road. So you've got the whole of you've got three sides of the Blackpool ground all going in one direction, and then you've got the Barnsley fans going to the car parks because they're not got the ones that aren't in the coaches are going onto the main car parks, and it just I really noticed a difference on Saturday. Actually, it was chaos on the road and if it had kicked off, if Preston were there or whatever, and it got a bit nasty, it would have been a pretty unpleasant experience for a lot of people. So I don't know what they're going to do, but the logic says keep them in for 10 minutes. That, from a safety aspect, you keep them in for 10 minutes. But I think it's the politically correct society we live in now that they won't do it. Just like they won't, I don't want to go off topic. Just like they won't arrest and lock up these, these protesters on the M25 or whatever, because it's not what they do these days. Where in days gone by they would have done.
Do you think they'll do something that, I think it was a couple of years ago when Cardiff have got a reputation of sorts that when Cardiff were away from home, they were only able to be bussed in and out for a few games. Do you think they might be able to sort of restrict Preston travelling so that you could just have the whole of Central Drive and somewhere just as effectively a coach park from, 4 o'clock onwards or whatever, and then they just, kettled back on and away you go down the M55 again? Because it's obviously when people travel independently, like you say, they do wander down Bloomfield Road, they do go all around the ground back to the front and town centre and all the rest of it. That's where Flashpoint's going to happen, isn't it? I don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
I don't remember it being such a big problem. I don't remember
look at what Sean's just said there.
Premier League.
Yeah, I don't get where this has come from, because police have generally kept us behind a few Lancashire away games. Think of all the games that we've been to in the past where we've been kept in loads of times. But As you've just said there, Tim, what about in the Premier League? What happens then? Are they going to say, right, sorry, we're turning 3,000 away because we can't handle it?
Yeah, it's. I mean, and what somebody in the comments said before, the way it's set up at the moment, it's almost like we're limiting ourselves to a 13,000 stadium because we're not going to sell 3,000 seats because we're not going to put people in the north, home or away, or not in numbers, and we're not going to put them in above the tunnel at the other end. It's just barking mad. It should be a 16,000 stadium.
Think back when we've played, days gone by when West Brom have come down here and they've brought 6,000 or 7,000. They've had 2 stands, haven't they? Birmingham.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's before Tim joined us, and obviously we were talking about a few incidents happening in the North Stand. This is where it makes it a little bit tricky, doesn't it, really? Because it's those incidents that the club will look at and possibly use it as an excuse not to give a full 4,000 to Preston.
Yeah, apparently we contravene their human rights. I mean, all you do is you sell. What you do is, it's to be honest, for me, it's quite simple. You sell a ticket subject to a condition that you acknowledge when you purchase the ticket that you will not be allowed to exit the ground until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you've given your consent, and if you don't give your consent, you don't get a ticket. It's not hard, is it?
I mean, is that not a condition of sort of ground? I mean, I read, for reasons I won't go into, I read the ground regulations the other day that were pinned on the wall, and I'm sure there was something about that you can be directed to remain in your seat, or I'm sure there was a small print in those ground regulations that about you kind of, by being in here, you assume that the stewards can assume control or whatever. I mean, if you go to a public event, if you go to a theatre or something, and the ushers say it's public safety, stay here, stay in your seat, do not leave. You just accept that, don't you? We accept that all the time. If you're on a plane, if the steward says, right, sit down, put your seatbelt on, or you're not getting off the plane yet, you just accept it. So I don't see why you shouldn't accept sitting down at a football ground for 10 minutes in sort of in the interest of public order. I mean, clearly, if somebody's having a heart attack or something, they're not going to prevent them leaving or prevent. That's not the case. It's just saying stay there until you accept it. There's all sorts of events that they're cleared by stewards, aren't they?
Maybe they're using this as an excuse because there's no appetite to do it.
Thing is,
I suspect it's coming from high up in the constabulary. That it's just policy, and I think it's a change of policy at the police rather than a change of policy amongst the clubs. Because I can't imagine the club would have any issue with because again we go back to the common sense argument, don't we? I can't think the club would have any issue if the police said, right, we're going to keep Barnsley for 5 or 10 minutes, and in fact, don't even talking 10, are you? 5. Just let the main crowd disperse. That's all you're doing, because it creates a bottleneck, and you don't get any further anyway because you've got people fighting against each other to go in different directions, not literally fighting, but trying to push through. And
maybe it'd be good to get a representative from the local police force on here and explain it to us. I think there's a lot of
Tom on.
questions.
I'll message Tom and get him to the football liaison officer and see if we can get an explanation. See if he'll come on. Yeah.
So to be continued. Anyway, interesting point of view, interesting conversation. Let's get back to the game. So, but it's a Barnsley reaction show there. So who'd have thought it? But yeah, I think this needed addressing.
I forgot who replayed then.
Right. Point 2 in the Seaside 7. I've put strong start. Mitch, come to you. The start of the game, we looked pretty good, didn't we?
We did. I actually thought Barnsley started in about the first 90 seconds. They looked absolutely mustard, and then they never looked anywhere near for the rest of it. I thought we
Sean
really
said this though, Mitch. If you remember, he said Don't forget about the press. Don't.
Well,
the
quite, yeah,
police.
it's
Will somebody
all about the
please
press.
think about.
But that's what I've always said, John. And it's what you and I have always said. It's all about the press and it's all about the XG. So, yeah, I thought we started superbly. And I was really pleased to see us just get a grip on a game. It was really enjoyable to see us get a grip on a game. A lot of our best performances this year have come when we've sort of come back. We've been up against it and we've shown character, but it was really nice to see us get a grip on a game. And there were chance after chance. It felt like one of those games where you're thinking, "Oh, we're going to regret not scoring." Off the top of my head, we had Lavery had a go, John-Jules had a go, Keshi was on fire, Garbutt had a go. There were 3 or 4 that we could have scored. And yeah, we played very well.
Matt, you nodding your head there. Did you like what you saw?
Yeah, I like what I saw, and I like what I just heard. Then, really, it was exactly that. I thought we did start well. I thought we were 2 well matched, sort of physical and footballing style type of teams, really. So it made for an entertaining game. Despite just the 1 goal happening, it wasn't quite sort of end to end stuff, but you can appreciate what the other team and our team were trying to do, really. So, yeah, it was one of those where if I was a neutral, I'd have just sat back and enjoyed what was on offer. Really, it was it was a good start, and I thoroughly enjoyed the game on Saturday. I thought it felt like we'd arrived again. And I mean, obviously I wasn't at Borough, but it felt for me, being the first time that I'd actually seen us win this year, it felt like we'd properly arrived in the Championship, because I'm going ahead of us now. But I'm talking about the start, but it was one of those where probably 6 games ago we wouldn't have hung on to a 1-0 as comfortably as we did.
Tim, it's a decent point from Matt there. I think Barnsley were strong. They started strong, but we got to grips with them quite well. But as Matt said there, against other teams, the game's gone away from us. I think Cardiff and Coventry, 2 that stick in my mind. And it's good to see that we're now imposing ourselves on these type of games against these stronger sides. Yeah,
I think we're finding our feet, aren't we? I think we've probably, we particularly in the second half of last season, we were used to being on top. We were used to dominating games, and then we've come up. It's like when you move up a class at school, isn't it? It's all a bit harder, and it's a bit harder, and you're gonna have to think a bit harder. You're gonna have to work a bit harder, and that's what all our lads are having to do. And I think, once they realise they're not going to get that extra touch on the ball, once they realise that you've got to be there half a second quicker, it's starting. It's starting to click, and there's some players who have. Not just coats, but thrived on it, and there's others that I'm not going to mention any names, but who may fall by the wayside. And but I think this, there's probably 4 or 5 players on Saturday who've really showed that they've got the class to step up to this level. Who we didn't know that they did. I'll mention Keshi in particular. Where last season, if you were talking about players in the Championship, you probably wouldn't have said that he was the one likely to make the grade, but I think he's the one of the players who's thrived the most at this level. I think he's stepped up that extra notch, and he's almost like ring fenced in as a starting player when he probably couldn't even hold a place down in the team last year in League One. So it's great to see, and I think Saturday was the first time where I actually properly thought we were the better team.
Yeah,
and
we've arrived.
We really enjoyed it. Yeah.
So on the Blackpool Twitter feed, Mitch, it says it's been a frantic yet scrappy start to the game, but I was reasonably confident that we'd go on and get a goal in the half, the way we were commanding possession, and it came on 32 minutes by Shane Lavery's right foot, and I've put on the banner there with Keshi's glorious assist. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
It is genuinely difficult to work out if I've.
We lost him.
He's not coming back at the moment, is he?
No.
Matt, I'll bring this over to you then. You can wax lyrical about Keshi's.
I'll try and finish the sentence.
Reverse donkey kick. Oh, he's back.
Oh, he's back. Back in the room.
I'm back.
You froze.
I'm back. I was so good. It was so good. My internet crashed. That's how good it was. Yeah, no, genuinely difficult to work out if I've seen a moment of individual impudence quite like that before. It was just something else, and it just came out one of those wanders into the middle of the pitch where you think,
Mitch, you've gone like Norman Collier.
he's got him running to the middle. He's going to run across. I'm going to pass the other way. He fell over, and Lavery popped it home again. Everybody's frozen.
we're not frozen. You are. I'm hoping this isn't me, Max. As I said before, I'm going to slag them off again. Plus net, terrible service. Can't wait for my Sky super fast broadband to around, but I'm guessing it's Mitch's connection. As Sean said, look at you all freezing, struggling for words at the maestro. Keshi, Matt, it was a. How would you describe it? As Daz McKenzie just said, agreed. Keshi's back heel was worth the entry fee alone.
Well, it was, but annoyingly, being in the North Stand, I don't think I just didn't appreciate the actual pass itself. I was like, oh.
What's happened? There?
Like,
yeah,
how the hell did that happen?
Yes.
And it was only until I watched it back, it was just like bloody Nora. I mean, to have the vision and the the skill, obviously, to do that was just outrageous. But I think we've all known that Keshi's got something like that in his locker. He could be a player. I still think he's not in the right position. I still see him somewhere like a number 10 type of player, but. He's obviously doing a decent job out left. But yeah, it was just a shame that on the day itself, I couldn't actually appreciate how brilliant that particular pass was, I'm afraid, from the North Stand. But I bet those in the South were absolutely drooling over it.
Well, I'm in Block K, and even I couldn't see it properly. I just ended up seeing the ball at Lavery's feet, and what a sublime finish. Obviously, the assist was poetry in motion, something right out of the ordinary. But Lavery, cool as a cucumber, wasn't he? Just slotted it in, side-footed into the far corner. Very easy to miss and snatch at that chance.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen it. How many times have we seen it missed? The finish was exquisite, wasn't it? And you look at the recruitment that brought someone like him into the club from Northern Ireland, and that's got. Did we pay anything? If we did, it wasn't very much. It's absolute bargain acquisition that, and I think he's going to be a big player for us, and he's showing that he's got the tenacity and the pace and the coolness when he does get through to actually make a massive difference at this level. I'm just going back to Keshi's back heel. I mean, he does it as he's falling as well, and it is something quite special. It's nice to see that little bit of impudence in the team, that we're prepared to try things like that and do things like that. And you see it with Bowler on the other side as well. And sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what football's about for me. It's not playing this sterile to feet, then lump it. I want to see things like that. And as Daz says, Daz McKenzie, it's what you pay your entrance money for. Yeah. And even if you don't see it, the fact that your team does things like that, even if you don't see it particularly well, it's you just got to lap it up.
Yeah. Do you think this is the start of the sort of Blackpool way of playing football again? Because we've been sort of entertained in the past, haven't we? And obviously gone through a bit of a, let's say, a turgid time recently. And even after that, it's, how could I put it? It's the difference, isn't it? The Josh Bowlers, the Keshi Andersons, the Laverys to a lesser extent, that they can do these sort of things that, make it entertaining and can do something a little bit different instead of just being a are pretty much a sterile 4-4-2 type of team that maybe somebody like Middlesbrough were. I didn't see any of their players particularly having any flair as such, whereas we seem to have got 2 or 3 players who can do something now.
Yeah, I mean, Keshi was at it, wasn't he? He was at it at Millwall, if I remember rightly, backheeling into Yates through and things like, and so I think you're going to keep seeing this from him this season, because I think he's got a bit of a swagger about him, and I think going back to the first discussions when Simon came in, he wanted us to play attractive football, and you're not going to win every week, but it doesn't really matter if you're being entertained, and. So winning isn't the be all and end all. I think we're at our level, and if we'll come out, have enjoyed the game, and having seen Bowler, upped his XG marks with Sean and Keshi doing it on the other side, then that's what it's all about, really.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think Kesh has slimmed down a little bit. I think he was very muscular when he was last year. He seemed quite a combative player last year. And I think he's just lost a bit of that bulk and just got that little bit more athletic and that little bit more speed that has brought that sort of extra half a yard of space, because he frustrated me a lot last year. And I could never quite see, and I sort of wind Sean up a bit about stuff, but I could never quite see what Sean saw in him. But I can certainly bloody see it now. He really, really is. He really is a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's a fair point, that, Mitch, because just before that, he was the one that he sort of lost control of it down the left-hand side, kept the ball in, and won the throw-in ultimately, which we scored from. Whereas I think you're right. I think last season he would have just given up on it and wouldn't have got the pace to do it. And he looks, whilst I think he is still a bit out of position, he doesn't look totally out of position, because I think you're right. I think he's got a little bit of extra sort of pace about him, and genuine winger pace at that. He's certainly got past their fullback a few times.
I mean, joking aside,
I think he was carrying an injury, wasn't he, at the start?
Yeah.
He was carrying an injury last season, and we saw glimpses, I think, when he came back from the injury, that he was like having a new player, wasn't it? And he stepped up, for me, he stepped up again, even from that. So, sorry, Mitch, we talked across each other, didn't we?
Shut your trap.
No, I was just going to say, joking aside that comment, I mean, he's taken a chance in a position that's probably not his own, which was, what probably he who shall not be named didn't do. Our previous number
He didn't
10.
want to know when he was on the left, basically, did he?
No,
he was good when he was number 10.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know
and Kesh really has taken that chance, and he's just electric to watch. And in a way where Bowler can frustrate, he's either very, very good or very, very bad. Keshi seems to have a level of consistency about him, where you just you've got that, because he can do several things as well. He actually played some lovely little through balls. He's all right in the tackle. He's for an attacking player. He gets up and down, and he'll come inside and get stuck in and puts himself about. And he'll have a shot, and he's sort of taken on this wide man persona as well this year, and you're going to get something from him, whereas Bowler, that you're either going to get the best thing you've ever seen, or he's going to sort of run into the corner flag and fall over, and it's good to see.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the other kind of defining moments of the first half. Matt, was when Terrace John-Jules put great chance spurned upon the banner there, put through on goal. He's got to score from there, hasn't he? At least make the keeper make a decent save. He's got the ball took an additional touch when you didn't have to.
It would have pretty much killed the game, I think, at that point, just before half time. It's one of those, isn't it, where you can't help yourself, but you think, would Yates put it away? Probably. Would Ellis Sims put it away? Probably. And at the moment, you don't look at TJJ and have that same confidence. And unfortunately, he doesn't seem to exude that confidence either that a goal scorer should. So he just has to work hard, I guess, and hope that things will come. And I think that's 10 games now he's played for us and not scored, possibly. I think I heard that over the weekend. It's not that he doesn't look particularly out of place, but I'm starting to have a little niggly doubt about him. But then I think back about last year, and probably we had similar niggly doubts about Jerry Yates, didn't we? So he needs a goal quickly, I think, just to get that confidence going. But he should have scored. I think it was about as straightforward a chance the striker's ever going to get, apart from a tap-in, obviously. But there you go.
Tim, I think it was a striker lacking in confidence. As we all know, confidence is a massive thing for strikers. And for me, it was that additional touch that he took where there was no need to take that touch. It was kind of perfectly weighted for him just to get his shot away, and he's taken another touch, the ball stuck under his feet, and he's just made it difficult for himself.
I was really frustrated with it when I watched it live because it was a gilt-edged chance. There's no doubt about it. I'm gonna be a bit kind to him though, because when I watched it back on TV, I don't think it was quite as bad as it looked in the flesh. I think at the end of the day, he got a shot off. It probably wasn't as powerful as it could have been, but he made the keeper make a save. It was on target. So I'm going to be kind and say it was on another day it might have gone in. I didn't notice about the option of the square ball, I must admit. But yeah, I didn't feel quite as bad about it when I watched it back. But I was not fuming, is the wrong word, but I was frustrated because I always, obviously you've got pessimism anyway, haven't you? But I always felt that Barnsley were going to come back at us, and I felt that was the chance to go in at half time, 2-0 up. And then hopefully really kick on in the second half. Listen, as we're going to talk about, even right to the end, they had a couple of chances, and even though they're off target, a couple of them weren't far off, and that could have been, it could have cost us 2 points, couldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, it's a great point from Tim. Wasn't for Chris Maxwell, would be taking a point home. So at this level, we have to be putting those sort of chances away. So I really do think it's time for Jerry to come back into this team.
I agree, and I think you've got to say, if he wasn't on loan from Arsenal, if he was our player, would we still be starting him? And I'm not entirely sure we would. I've said this, I think, on the last 2 pods, that I think he's a good player. I think he does excellent work deep. I think he's got good vision, lovely touch. I enjoy watching him play. There was one little ball he hooked over his shoulder and found Garbutt or somebody on the flank. It was a delight to watch, but it just doesn't convince me in front of goal, and we're playing him up front, which is a problem. I know he's not the number 9, but as the number 10, sort of as a striking number 10, if you like, then you're going to have to score sometimes. You don't have to score with every shot, but you're going to have to score sometimes, and he just never looks like he's going to do it. And I think on the last 2 pods as well, we've talked about his indecision in front of goal, his hesitance in front of goal. And I think, I agree with Tim, it wasn't a dreadful miss, but it's becoming a little bit cumulative, where it looks like he's not going to score and it's weighing on him. I don't know if you saw when he missed, he lay on the floor and Bowler just dragged him up by the back of the shirt. He was lying on the floor. Bowler came over and just hoisted him up, like, get up, get on with it, come on. And I know Critch said in the post-match that he was very down at half time. He was very affected by the miss. And, Critch had said, you put it behind you, you can't change the past. But that kind of backs up what we've said in the last couple of pods, that it might be just an idea to take him out the firing line for a couple of games, let somebody else have a go, and rotate him back in when he's firing again.
Did with Sims.
Yeah, that's what he did with Sims, and it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, point 5, which I've titled Halftime Pint Gate. You 3 won't know what I'm going on about here. This was an incident at halftime when I was going to get a drink. Finally got served under the West Stand. It's card only, which I didn't know. So luckily I was going to pay with cash and had my card with me, so I've paid. I was just clicked through. You just don't check, do you? You just blindly hand over your card and buzz it. Anyway, I've had 2 pints and a packet of crisps. So it's like the program, doesn't it? And
Song in there somewhere.
yeah. And it came 19 quid. I was like, hang on a minute. You've just charged me 19 quid for 2 pints. And the geezer's going, oh, I don't know what to do. They were all a bit kind of flustered. And I said, well, can you just give us a tenner out of the till? Because he didn't know how to do it. And I said, so, oh, there's no money in there. I said, well, can you just refund it then? And he said, well, I don't know how to do it. I said, well, can you ask one of your colleagues if they can do it? So he's got this female colleague over. She didn't know how to do it. None of them knew how to do it, issue a refund. So I was like, well, I'm not fucking going until you've given us me tenner back. You know, I want it back. They said, well, can you go back? Can you go back and come back in 10 minutes? I was like, no, I fucking can't. You know, I'll be back at the, you know, he's going to kick off. So
See,
can you come back in 10 minutes?
That's where me and you differ, John. I'd have just tried to get 5 pints out of them.
There you go. The next 2 people in the queue give me the money rather than pay for your beer. That's a solution. You've got to think out the box, John.
So I said, right, I'll just stand there and I'll wait. And I had to miss 5 minutes the second half. Anyway, eventually this guy's come over. He was the bar manager. He was a big chap. So he's refunded my money. I said, how much was it? And I said, well, I don't know. So he's given me 3 pints back on my card. He said, there's a refund. Just whiz your card over. So I've whizzed it over. And it's not gone into my account. So they owe me £10, Blackpool Football Club. And I want it back. So Simon, you're listening.
While we're on about half-time pints, you should have followed the lead by me and used these new machines they've got. And then I don't.
New machines.
It's like going.
What?
Oh,
New machines.
yeah,
What?
you don't know about these.
No.
I don't know whether they're in the West, but in the North, if you think McDonald's, you know, when you go to McDonald's or Argos, and you go and plug in what you want, and they give you a ticket, they've got them in the North now. So you can only do it There's about 3 or 4 of them. So there's as you come down in from C block into the back, you turn left, and they're on the wall there, and it's card only. You get a ticket, and then the middle. I don't know it's got further down, but the middle kiosk, they're keeping one section free, and you go up there with your card at half time and get your pint. It's already pre-poured for you. Right result.
In the West.
I got served 30 seconds after walking. I think it might get busier next game, but when people realise that they're there. But I don't know whether they're in the West or it's just in the North, or whether. But presumably they're going to move them if they haven't done them yet. They're going to do them in other parts of the ground. So you can do it pre-match. You can't order at half time for half time. You have to order before the game for half time, and then so they're not working at half time. But yeah, great innovation.
All right. Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Straight down, straight there. It was there waiting for me. Just hand it over, pick the thing up, walk away. Fantastic. Well done, Blackpool Football Club. Because I've been moaning all season about it.
Well, that's the polar opposite of my experience, where I got charged twice. I had to queue 15 minutes nearly to get served. And then I had to miss some of the second half. And the crisps were stale as well. It wasn't just me. Rob said, his crisps were stale. I was like, I thought that was just me. Anyway, as an aside, we were chatting to this Scotch guy. He was there on his own. He was a Celtic fan. And he was saying, this is one of the best atmospheres I've ever been at. And I'd been to quite a lot of Celtic Rangers games. He couldn't believe it. And he says, I'm definitely coming back again. So he said, come back for the Preston game. He says, that's a big game. I said, yeah, that'll be good. So, yeah, as an aside. Right, anyway, Timmy, I didn't know that. So that's well done.
And Steve's just asked, Steve, it's on, I just said, if you come out the middle of C block, turn left, so you're away for the 2 kiosks, and they're on the right-hand side wall as you go through there. There's 3 of them. They look like there's something you see in a cinema or McDonald's or something on the wall. I've got a picture of it, but I'm not that sad to put it up on here.
Right. Well, that's a good idea, Michael. Why didn't I think of that? I'd have took the beers and sold them at a profit to the people at the back of the queue. I think Michael Preston. I don't like your surname, but I think you're a good entrepreneur. I like your middle name, by the way. Damn, why didn't I think of that? Right. Number 6, Big Gaz in the second half. Mitch, come to you. He wasn't that effective, was he, when he came on? in
Well,
the second half.
yeah,
I was
he wasn't very good.
I was like a spurned lover with his
Yes.
performance.
You know how I felt half the games last year when the soul didn't turn it on. It was. I think it was the right substitution, but he just didn't click, did he? He looked rusty. You know, the goal machine needed oiling. Ha ha. But he looked rusty. He looked out of tune with what was going on, and the ball didn't stick to him like it normally does.
No.
You'd see him set himself. You know, first 60 seconds came, and I thought, oh, good, here's Gaz, we're sorted. And he sort of did that thing where he set himself to take the ball, and it just bounced off him. And then he did it again, and it just bounced off him. And then one went up to him, and he sort of just watched it go over his head. And it was a bit like watching the Gary Medine who played under Grayson or Dunn. I can't remember if he was here with Grayson, but you know, sort of the Medine that really wasn't all that good at all when we were really quite poor. Yeah, it was disappointing. But I think you've got to give the lad a bit of a break in that he's played. I sort of mentally tried to add it up. I'd be surprised if he's played 90 minutes in 8 months. You know, or something like 90 minutes in 8 months. He really hasn't played a lot of football at all. So, you know, I wouldn't rubbish his entire career before. And Medine's one of those players who will have a couple of absolutely barnstorming games, and then he'll have a bit of a quieter one. You know, so he'll be right. He'll be bagging hat-tricks soon.
Yeah. Tim, finally, the second half. Let's just move on to it. The final stages of the game. Chris Maxwell's kept us in it with a glut of fine saves. There was that header that just glanced past the far post in the dying embers of the game. I was convinced that was going in. It was a horrible moment, but yeah. As I said, 0.7 on the Seaside 7 is Maxwell's in the EFL team of the week. And rightly so with that performance against Barnsley, kept them at bay.
Yeah, I think we didn't mention it earlier, but the save he made in the first half, which I think was their only chance of note, one of the few shots that they got on target in that half, I thought was a fantastic save. You know, he got down really well, and he looked equally impressive on the playback as well. But yeah, I was on tenterhooks really because we were willing that second goal to go in at the north end, weren't we? Where I think it'd been pandemonium if it had, and it didn't come. And you know, I do think with hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I think Yates would have been more effective coming on. But I was convinced they were going to get an equaliser. So I think it's a while since I can remember being so glad to hear the final whistle. Come on, Blackpool. We need 2 or 3 to the good, please. It's not really good for the heart when you get in your 50s, is it? Watching the stoppage time. But yeah, very pleased.
Matt, I've got a heart rate monitor on my Apple Watch, and it's quite funny watching it in situations like this because it gives you a graph of how many beats per minute you go. Mine was up to like 120 quite a few times in the last 10 minutes of the game. How confident were you that we were going to see it out and get the 3 points?
I still felt relatively comfortable, as I said right at the start, really. But it's just the way that the season gone. Obviously, you know, you're up against players who can potentially put better crosses in and better centre forwards and all the rest of it. So you do always think as though there is always one big chance. And, you know, fortunately, that header across, was about as close as they got, really. But Maxwell is he just gets better with age. He's like a fine wine, isn't he, really? He seems to know every angle in his area. And that's the key, really, because if they've only got one place to shoot, then it's not the first and it won't be the last time that we've actually seen him make that type of save this or last season, certainly. So he's I think he's pretty much on top of his game, isn't he, at the moment?
As the bonus says, Maxwell in EFL Team of the Week. So quite rightly, he was rated in there. So let's move on to our own player ratings, employing the FPRS system. Start with you then, Tim. Chris Maxwell, EFL Team of the Week. But what's the fielding rating system say?
I think it is his best game of the season. I think we get a little bit blasé about actually how good he is in the sweeping role. We've had other keepers, and I can't remember any keeper that we've had who is as comfortable with the ball at his feet as he is. And to be fair, the number of times he actually doesn't fight, get a decent clearance on it, and hopefully to one of us, is quite rare. I think he's actually had a couple that have sliced out the season, and it's just so unusual. It really stands out, and I think we're I wasn't. I'll hold my hand up and say I wasn't completely convinced about him when he first came, but what a keeper he's turned into, and it's a 9 from me today. I think he had a superb game on Saturday. That's his best performance of the season.
Yeah, you said Anik was better. I do remember that. I do also remember saying
I'll hold my hand up. I did.
Matt, Dujon Sterling, first time you've seen him, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. When I tuned in to watch the Borough game last week, the first thing he did was get too close to I think it's called Hernandez, I think he was called. He got skinned and they had a half chance. And instantly he's learned from that. And he looks a really good prospect, obviously on Chelsea's books, isn't he? And I think if we got him for the rest of the season or just till January, because I know a couple of sort of deals have been done just till January, I think. But if he's there till the rest of the season, and obviously we've got Gabriel as well, we have got all of a sudden nothing to worry about down that right back sort of position. And I was mightily impressed with him. I think he looks assured and, physically seems to have everything. And I think he'll only get better. So for me on Saturday, being the first time I've seen him, I'd give him a good 8 out of 10.
Okay. Mitch, Tricky Dicky. Goes from strength to strength, does Richard.
If Tim is culpable for saying that Anik was better than Maxwell, I've got to hold my hands up, because when we signed him, I said it sounded like it seemed like an Oyston era signing, something to fill the squad up. I wrote about a 3-paragraph, very funny, description of how bad he was in one of my blogs, thinking that was a clever thing to do. And,
we all did, to be fair. Don't beat yourself up.
Well, I know. It was only a couple of weeks ago that I said he's not. We talked about how we had 8 great defenders and Richard Keogh, and we all went ha ha ha. Who is he? This funny old man with a weird side parting. And I thought he was sensational on Saturday. I don't know if it was being at the South End. I sit sort of left-hand side of the goal, which is obviously just in front of him, playing left-sided centre-half. And he was absolutely, I'm struggling not to swear, he was fucking brilliant. He really was. And it was absolutely chalk and cheese from it was the Coventry game where he was dreadful. He covered, he was intelligent. His pace was, he hadn't got any quicker, but he was intelligent. He covered, he headed, he chucked himself in at the last minute, 3 or 4 sliding tackles. I thought he was superb. So I am going to give him, before I get to McGinley level length with my soliloquy, I'm going to give him a 9+, and I don't care what anybody says. I thought he was brilliant.
And there's the Timism in there as well, so you get one of them. Although it was a nicked off Tim from last week, but the way you've segued it in there.
I think maybe I might have given him an extra mark just to apologise for my smart-ass comments about him, but I don't care. He deserves it.
There was those blocks, wasn't there? The last 2 games, he's made last-ditch blocks from nowhere. And
yeah,
that commitment to cause and awareness of danger that's just
And I know I'm going on and we're going on now, but there was a moment where I thought there were two moments where I thought he's absolutely going to get done here, and he just did this sort of thing where he just ran to where the player would be because it was a shorter length, and the player sort of thought he'd got away, and then Keogh's there because he just hadn't bothered chasing him. He'd just run to where he would be. It was the experienced head that that you hoped we'd get from a 36-year-old player. And long may it continue. Sorry, I've taken up too much time.
You've done just like Sean did on the last player rating section. Do you remember?
Yes.
He went off on a soliloquy as well.
Yeah. Well, I think Sean, though, a lot of it, he was sort of giving credit to Marvin for Keogh, but I'm giving Keogh credit for Keogh here.
Well, he's just popped up. Thank you, Mitch, for making my Keogh monologue look
It's
like
a new
standard
feature.
practice.
The Keogh monologue. Right, shut up, Mitch. That's not even my name.
No.
I'm calling myself this now.
You're gonna
Jesus.
at home. Your missus is gonna be shouting, "Matt,
Yeah.
he's ready."
Yeah.
She's gonna be getting a response from you.
Oh, dear. She caused me worse things than Mitch, believe me.
Right, Tim. Big Marv, imperious again. I think he was the sponsors man of the match as well. Was he the Tim? What was the Tim Fielding score for Big Marv?
Yeah, well, you almost run out of superlatives for him, don't you? Because he just keeps doing it week in, week out, and he's one of these players. I was speaking about earlier, along with Keshi, who you weren't too sure about whether he's quite got it in him, and he's just got into the stratosphere in relation to the way he's playing. He's literally, pretty much the first name on the team sheet, and it was just like another faultless performance. And we keep saying it now, week in, week out, don't we? But we should never tire of saying it because every game he's doing the business for us. And I think it was Tom, wasn't it, who did, which I retweeted, did the brick wall with him and Keogh's face superimposed on it. And that's what they are together, aren't they? They are a wall that the opposition are going to struggle to get through. And as long as they both stay fit, they seem to complement each other unbelievably. And I've no hesitation. No, I'm not going to go for a 10, despite Richards. I'm going to go for a 9. Keep it real, but it's a very, very good score and a very, very good performance.
Why not utilise the FPRS here? If you don't want to give him a 10.
What, the 9 plus? What if I give it a 10 minus? No, I'm going to stick with him. I'm going to stick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, go on. You've twisted my arm. I'm in a good mood tonight. 9 plus. If Keogh gets a 9 plus, he's a partner in crime, deserves one as well.
I thought his distribution was excellent, which is the plus for me. His defensive works are always really good, but I was really impressed with his use of the ball, probably more so than any other game. So I think that he deserves that plus.
Yeah, there you go. Right, Matt, Luke Garbett, industrious as ever.
He's turned into a proper fullback, hasn't he, over the last few weeks? I think a lot of people had reservations about his defensive abilities, but he's as solid as they come at the moment. And I thought he had another decent game on Saturday.
He's getting more aggressive, isn't he? I think he's just getting a bit more aggression into his game.
Yeah, I think that plus maybe it's just his decision making all round. Maybe he's sort of matured into that player that everyone talked about that he should have been, at Everton and all that sort of carry on. And if we can just get some proper free kicks out of him, he'll be very, very good. But as far as Saturday goes, it was a solid 8 out of 10 from me.
Okay, Mitch, Ryan Wintle, Mr. Consistency since he's come in.
Yeah, I thought it was probably, I could be wrong, but I thought it was probably Wintle's poorest game, but it doesn't seem to vary very much, if that makes sense. So I'd go for about a 7+ for him because I thought he was industrious as ever, but a couple of times his touch was just a little bit lacking, and I thought probably Doogs outshone him with distribution, so I'll go with a 7+, which might be a little bit harsh. But I'll tell you what I've noticed, that is our only player that wears black football boots. which is something to be hailed in this era of multicoloured madness.
Mitch, in my role as a junior football coach, I've purchased a pair of football boots for the upcoming very wet pitches, pure black.
Good man.
So great minds think alike. Tim, over to you. King Kenny Dougal. Is he the best of our two central midfielders?
I think undoubtedly on Saturday, I thought he had a great performance up at Middlesbrough, and he took that back into the game. He missed his pre-season, didn't he? And so I think it's taken him a few games to get going. But I think we're now starting to see the player that played so well for us last season. And it was interesting on the pre-match, the Barnsley, the Barnsley fan we had on. He made the point, didn't he, that he broke his leg at Barnsley. Up to that point, he'd been doing quite well for them, but in League One, not in the Championship. And I think that the jury was out with them as to whether he could step up. But I think he showed them as well as us yesterday. Even Saturday, what a great player he can be. And he's that when he's playing his best, he's the beating heart of the team. And I think he's on an 8+ for me. I think it was a very, very tidy, consummate performance by him, and he plays like that all season. We're not going to have any problems with staying up because he, along with a few others, are going to make sure that we're mid-table, hopefully even a little bit higher if my pre-season predictions are going to come right. So
we're quite good at these things.
Really,
aren't you?
Really, I don't know. I've never seen the results from last season yet because you've hidden them from.
Oh yeah, they got lost, didn't they?
They got lost, didn't they? But it's all right. I'll make sure I get it again this year.
Well done, Matt, in deleting that file. Josh Bowler, Matt. Josh Bowler.
Yeah, funny one, isn't it? Really, because I think there'll be games where he'll get 10 out of 10, and there might be games where he might get 4 out of 10, and he was somewhere in the middle. I thought on Saturday there were flashes and there were frustrations, and this is what you get with him. I think there's times where he will look like the best thing since sliced bread. I'm trying to think. If there was a time there was a couple of times where I sort of, I was always out of my seat, but he got me out of my seat. But I'm sort of struggling to give him more than sort of like a 7+ really in relation to others. That's what I'll go for.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. He's had better games, hasn't he? Next player up is Keshi Anderson, Mitch. Another high score, no doubt, for Keshi.
Yeah, so I've already said I thought Keshi was outstanding. There was the goal that he set up with that just outrageous bit of skill. There was that run the length of the pitch where he got ball in the face, knocked over, got up, carried on, ran past everyone and nearly set up Garbett. There was that burst through on the left-hand side early on that he pulled back for Lavery, who should have scored, who really, really should have scored. There was a shot he wasn't far away with, and he was everywhere. I think he was the man of the match, to be honest. Is it a 10? If Keogh and Marv are 9+, then Keshi won us that game with that bit of skill, and he
got 10- if he wanted.
No, he won us the game. You could argue defenders won us the game as well, or Maxwell won us the game, but I thought there was a touch of it's a big word. There's a touch of genius about that assist, and he looked bloody good. So I'm going to give him a 10, and I think he deserves it. I think that was his best display in a Blackpool shirt.
Yeah, fully deserved. I think is it your first 10 of the season, Mitch? I think it is, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't remember things.
I think there's only 10s. I think only Tim's dished that 110 so far. But yeah,
did I give it to Marv? I can't remember now.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah, it's definitely a 10 though. Absolutely agree. Tim, Shane Lavery.
Yeah, I mean, it was an industrious performance, and he's got that fizz about him, I think, that you need as a forward. He's confident. You can see he's confident in his own abilities. He's got that little bit of pace to get himself away. He's not going to hit the target all the time, but the goal he scored on Saturday was a superb finish, and he was maybe he could have got another, but he is what he is, and he's a great find, and he's going to be a great player for us this year. I'm going to give him an 8+.
Just to wrap this up, Matt, time is John-Jules. It's going to be hard not to be too harsh on the lad here, isn't it?
I know.
Goals, you're a striker.
Yeah.
You got to score goals, haven't you?
You do, and if you're not scoring goals, then you've got to be a bit more involved. And I think that's what we mentioned earlier, really, where he might just appreciate, probably isn't the right word from his point of view, but he might appreciate a couple of games out, and hopefully he'll come back bigger and better and stronger, and just hit the back of the net in training an awful lot over the next week or so. Obviously, we've got the is it an international break or some break at the 9th of October? I think it is anyway, for one reason or another. So whether he'll get a game against Blackburn, rested tomorrow night, who knows, against Hull. But I think as far as Saturday's concerned, a little bit disappointing, really. Yeah, I don't want to give him too much about an out of context score, so I'll go 7.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Right, let's fire through these man of the matches. Tim, over to you.
I think I've got to agree with Mitch and go with Keshi on this one, and very well deserved.
Mitch, you've already said Keshi, haven't you? I'm going to agree. Keshi. Matt, for you, is it going to be a clean sweep for Mr. Anderson?
Well, on Saturday, I said it straight away. I thought Big Marv was brilliant, so I'll stick with Big Marv just to be different, if nothing else.
That's fair.
I just mentioned it's great to see Mitchell back as well. We didn't get a chance to mention it before, Andy. I thought, and he looked quite
good.
lively, didn't he? He's given us another option on that right.
Yeah. Okay, let's go very quickly go on to the Hull match, which is tomorrow night. Let's have a quick look at the league tables while we're here. There's Hull, 23rd in the table. But hang on a minute. Who's that in 14th and who's that in 15th?
It's nice to see,
my eyesight's a bit unclear, Tim. Could you just read those positions out?
Yeah, in 14th position after 9 games are Blackpool with 11 points. And there's some scummy team from about 15 miles away called Preston, who after the same number of games has got 10 points. So, but they're still not low enough for me. I've got them 24th, so they've got a bit of work to do with Derby getting points deductions left, right and centre. So, come on, Preston. You know where you want to be.
They're unbeaten in 6, though. It's not bad going, is it? But they've not won 3 out of 4, have they?
No, I think we're 4th in the form table over the last 5 games.
Oh, really? Yeah. All right, brilliant. But yeah, if you look at 23rd position, gentlemen, Hull City, they're on a shocking run of form. Not won since the opening day. Listen to this one. They've scored 1 in 8 games. And Sean's dropped a few more stats in for me, and the key one is they are quite shite. Expected a bit more from him there. Thirds, XG, expected passes, expected pies at the stadium, but no. Yeah, what a great time to be playing them, though.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen now, don't you?
I know, it's all geared up for it, isn't it? McGuinness hat-trick. It's funny, really, because they pretty much, I wouldn't say they ran out. They were obviously champions last year, and I don't know if they've recruited anybody, but they pretty much have the same sort of front 2 or 3. And they're obviously talented players, like Wilkes is a good player, and McGuinness I've just mentioned, and the other lad with the double-barreled name, I think it is. But
Honeyman as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so the decent players, and obviously apart from the first game against Preston when they battered them 4-1, I think it was, they've obviously struggled, but I guess in this instance, you've got to beware the wounded tiger, haven't you, really? And, I think it's like, I think it's just like any game away from home in this division is going to be tough, irrespectively position. So, it's one where we can get a point and then see where we go after that, I think.
But you know, if we get 3 points,
Absolutely.
You know, technically we could go 7th.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously got a bit of momentum and presumably a bit of confidence in the camp now. Like I said earlier, I think Saturday's game was the first one I really thought, and probably the second half of Middlesbrough, where we now belong in this division. And this is another decent test for us, because they'll obviously have memories from last season of playing against them, where we did pretty well, I think, off memory.
Have they still got the same manager they had last year? I mean, my head. Grant McCann. In my head, it's Terry Dolan, but I don't think it is it? That was bad.
Sean Windass still up front.
Dean Windass, yeah.
Dean Windass.
Supermarket at one end and everything. No, but I remember last year thinking they were a team that had some very good players, but I wasn't that impressed with them as a unit when they played us. I was impressed with the players, but not the team, if that's not an oxymoron. And we beat them at home, didn't we? It was a cracker at home, and away they didn't really cause us that much trouble, considering they were pretty clear at the top of the league, I think, when we played them. It might be different this time around, because of course last year they were the team that had got away a little bit, and they didn't desperately need the 3 points, and this year I suppose they do. But I also remember last year that their fans were whinging about Grant McCann, even though they were top of the league. So I don't know if sort of their fans' attitude to Grant McCann perhaps was a bit prescient, So
he took them down as well as get them up, didn't he? So maybe he's just found his level, that he can't do championship football, perhaps. Hopefully.
One of the quick points to note. If you look, let's just get the table back up again quickly. Is dev tools off? As my web dev skills hiding adverts. We are by far and away the highest placed team that's come up from League One. 14th, Peterborough 21st, Hull 23rd. So it's all good.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Peterborough down there. They were shipping goals last year, but they just happened to score 7 or 6 or something daft. But they were always, capable of conceding 2, 3, and 4. They've obviously not recruited any decent centre halves by the looks of things, so I think they'll continue to ship goals, I would imagine,
and concede shit goals as well.
Well, probably those as well.
Sean's redeemed himself with his previous comment of they are quite shite, with this little pearl of wisdom. 17.2 PPDA, worst in the division for pressing, and 86% of the passes are short, so they don't go long. Passive, straight into our hands for me. That's exactly what I was just thinking.
I didn't understand a word of that. It might as well have been in Latin.
Just lump it to Big Gaz. We'll be right.
Absolutely.
And of course, we've got, probably for us on the Tuesday night, we've got the Sky red dot thing, haven't we? And red button, and Tangerine TV as well, if you haven't got Sky. So if you don't fancy making the trip, which is a tortuous trip midweek, isn't it, across the M62, then you've got that option. So no excuses for any of us, is there, tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Right, let's sign off then. Just go around the room quickly with a few predictions, and we'll bugger off. Matt, what do you think?
I'll take a point, but I feel confident enough to actually say that we'll win it 1-0.
I'm confident as well, and I think we're gonna turn it on. I think Jez is gonna get back in the side, and I think we're gonna win 3-1. Mitch, penny for your thoughts.
I'm going to go for 2-1, but I think that's a pretty good call on Jezza, because I think he's got a point to prove.
See this out, Timothy.
I was very worried when we all predict to win.
It always goes wrong, doesn't it? Yeah. Write it in, quick.
Ipswich last year.
I was going to go 2-0 win, but so bear that in mind. That was my. But I'm going to go 1-1 just to make so we don't jinx us.
Well, technically, I just said 2-1. I didn't say who was going to win, so that could be the out, couldn't it? I mean, that could be the out. That could protect us from the fates of the gods.
I always remember we always seem to be the team that ended these horrendous runs of other teams, didn't we?
Yes,
There was always one team-
always,
yeah,
there was one
always.
team we played like 23 games. They hadn't won a game in
Oh,
23
who was
games.
that?
Was it Gillingham?
Aldershot.
They were,
It was
yeah, they
Aldershot,
were,
wasn't
was it
it?
Aldershot?
it was
I'm
like
sure
a
it
thing
was,
on
I think.
Football Focus and everything, wasn't it? Because this team just never, and then it was us.
Oh dear. We've got Coach Critchley now. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Right, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. I think we're going to leave it there. Please do like and subscribe to the show if you're watching on YouTube. We'll be coming back after the whole game on the preview show on Thursday. So cheers, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Mick.
Hey, you're welcome, mate. I'm off
Cheers.
out to get some petrol now, so don't go anywhere, anybody. I want some, definitely.
Right, thanks for watching. Downloading Up the Pool. Up the Pool.
Up the Pool.
Up the Pool.